This is what happened in this person's last 24 hours.
It's not very ecstatic for me. I haven't been ecstatic. I've been happy and somewhat, most of the time, pretty depressed.
Marvin Gaye, also known as the Prince of MoTown, lived a life full of ups and downs. This video is about his last day on earth. Marvin woke up in the house pictured here in Los Angeles, California. Marvin purchased this house in 1973 for approximately $30,000 for himself, but about a year later ended up giving it to his parents. In 1984, Marvin had been staying with his parents at this house for about 6 months now. This is because he wanted to be with his mother after her surgery, but Marvin also had lost his other homes and properties due to divorces and poor money management. Furthermore, Marvin got a doctor to write him an excuse so that he could leave his tour early after receiving a large down payment for the tour. So the promoters were looking for him to get their money back. Due to his use of illegal substances and not wanting to leave the house much, Marvin Gaye often had many people in and out of the house to bring him things and to keep him company since he did not like living with his father, Marvin Sr. Marvin's substance abuse had gotten worse, and he kept telling his parents that he was going to rehab.
Marvin had told my mother he was going to go to a hospital and dry himself out. And she was holding him to that promise, and he was gearing up towards it too. So he never went, but he was going to.
Because Marvin was not in his right frame of mind, his father, Marvin Sr., despised people in and out of the home. His father did not know, nor did he trust the people that Marvin was letting in. Marvin Sr. was also nervous about his property being seized by debt collectors or something else happening to it. So for days, he had been arguing about some insurance papers that he could not find. Marvin Sr. felt as though his wife, Alberta, had done something with them. Once Marvin's visitors were gone, this only left Marvin Sr., Marvin, and Alberta, Marvin's mother. Marvin and his father, Marvin Sr., had an extremely strained, intense relationship with one another. Even though Marvin Sr. had taught his son piano and nurtured his musical talents when he was a kid, Marvin Sr. also hit everyone in the house as he deemed necessary. Marvin grew up being teased by other children because his father was a Pentecostal minister by day and a cross-dresser by night. A reporter once asked Alberta Gay about her husband's sexuality, and this was her response: "I'm not certain. I do know that 5 of his siblings were homosexual, and it's true that he liked soft clothing. Soft things of all kinds attracted him. He liked to wear my panties, my shoes, my gowns, even my nylon hose. Marvin would see him like that sometimes," end quote. But in reality, many people saw Marvin Sr. like this, as he did not seem to hide it. He even flaunted it. Marvin Sr. was an alcoholic, and the more he drank, the more he was annoyed with Alberta and Marvin's close relationship, as he could hear them talking and having a good time down the hall. Alberta wasn't able to raise her first son, Michael, that she had with another man, so she was very protective and supportive of Marvin. Marvin was the second of 4 children that Marvin Sr. and Alberta had, but he was their first son together. Everyone said that Alberta and Marvin could talk and laugh for hours together. This is the listing of 2101 South Gramercy Place on Zillow, and it by no means is a small house. As you see, in total, the property has 8 beds, 5 bedrooms, and over 6,500 square footage. Alberta and Marvin Sr. had been staying at this house for 10 years by this time, but Alberta had moved out from sleeping with Marvin Sr. years ago and stayed in a bedroom in between Marvin Sr. and her son Marvin. She did this to reduce the arguing between them. Marvin Sr. is now drunk and upset. Alberta and Marvin are still talking and enjoying each other's company. Marvin Sr. was surely jealous of their tight and close relationship, as he probably felt like the odd one out. And he doesn't understand why his wife Alberta doesn't see their son as a junkie. Marvin Sr. is still looking for the missing insurance papers, so he goes to the room that Alberta and Marvin are in, and he begins to question her about the whereabouts of the documents. Marvin gets tired of listening to his father yell at his mother, so he decides to intervene. With Marvin high and Marvin Sr. drunk, of course this results in a yelling match. Marvin tells his father to leave his mother alone and that she did not do anything. Marvin Sr. tells his son that he better stay out of it and that he also better not touch him.
I brought you into this world and I can take you out.
All of his children said that he said this all of the time, and he meant it. Surprisingly, Marvin Sr. did leave them to go back to his room. However, Alberta and Marvin could still hear him ranting and raving from down the hall. Later that night, Marvin went to see his brother Frankie. Frankie stayed adjacent to the three of them with his wife Irene. Frankie and Marvin were once close, but Marvin's growing paranoia made him feel as though his brother Frankie was also out to get him. Marvin burst in while they were having dinner, looking for the weapon that he gave Frankie to hold a while back. Frankie does end up giving him back the weapon, but Frankie unloaded it first because he was afraid of what Marvin may do with it.
And then he walked out the door, and before he slammed it, he just said, "Even you're not my friend anymore, you've turned against me."
Marvin returns to go to his room to go to sleep for the night as he is exhausted. However, this will be the last time. It's Sunday morning. Frankie and Irene come over. Irene prepared breakfast and made a plate for Alberta. Alberta, however, is not hungry, and she offers her plate to her son, Marvin. Marvin Sr. sees this and feels completely offended. He feels as though his wife Alberta should have offered him the plate instead of their son. Once again, Marvin Sr. is pissed. The father and son have such a toxic relationship that anything could cause an argument. Marvin Sr. has always used intimidation tactics to feel like the man of the house, but now he feels as though he is starting to lose grip on those around him, and he doesn't like it. Even though he would wear women's clothing, Marvin Sr. still believed in being stern and domineering with his wife and kids. So after arguing about the breakfast, Marvin Sr. picks back up where he left off last night about the missing insurance documents. He is convinced that either his wife Alberta or his son Marvin have done something with the documents, and he wants them back. At this point, Marvin is tired, high, and paranoid, and for a while he has told others that he does not want to live life anymore. And living with his father has him stressed out and at his wit's end. He was scared to leave the house, but staying there has taken a detrimental toll on his mental health. Marvin told his father that he better not come in his room, but of course, his father marched right in. Marvin then pushed and punched his father, and once his father was on the ground, Marvin goes back to kick him more while he was down. Marvin's siblings say that Marvin knew the consequence of hitting his father, and they believe that Marvin wanted his father to retaliate. Marvin's adrenaline and paranoia is at an all-time high. In all his 44 years, he has never raised a hand to his father. Marvin tells his mother, Alberta, that he can't be here any longer and that he must leave the house. Just minutes later, Marvin Sr. comes back to his son's room. Irene and Frankie are next door. Irene tells Frankie, Marvin's brother, that she heard shots. At first, Frankie does not believe it, but then he hears screams of his mother. So Frankie and Irene run to see what's going on. It takes Frankie a couple of minutes to get to Marvin because he knows his father is still in the house. Frankie gets to Marvin and holds him in his arms. Marvin, losing consciousness, whispers to his brother, "I couldn't do it myself, so I had him do it. It's good. I ran my race. There's no more left in me." It took EMS a while to get to Marvin because the home, as well as Marvin Sr., needed to be secured. But once they did get to Marvin, they transported him to California Hospital Medical Center. But it was too late. Just 10 minutes later, Marvin Gaye was pronounced dead. The news started to spread, and because it was April Fool's Day, along with it being his father, many people had a hard time even believing it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mary Hart.
And I'm Ron Hendren. Soul singer Marvin Gaye, whose career spanned over 25 years, including the birth of the MoTown sound to the 80s, was shot to death yesterday in Los Angeles. Dick Shoemaker reports.
69-year-old Marvin Gay Sr. was taken to police headquarters in downtown Los Angeles last night after being booked on suspicion of in the death of his son. Marvin Gaye was visiting his parents' home here in Los Angeles. There was a family argument. The singer was shot in the chest. A little while later, Marvin Gaye died.
Around me for all these cameras and for these people. I think you're one for myself. As long as I know you have a humble mind, and as long as you know there's a guard upstairs, you can call on him and respect the people. I think you're a really wonderful person. I'm gonna give that to you as my son, and I'm proud of you, really am.
Not my cup of tea.